Good to see everybody. August 22nd, we're talking about college baseball. That's what makes this the best place in America to coach and to play. And so thank you guys for coming out and covering our program the way that you do. There'll be Major League Baseball games going on today all across the United States where there's not even this environment, covering those games. So it's something we're really grateful for. It's been a busy summer, obviously, from the last time that we spoke at the end of the NCAA tournament. Had a very productive summer relative to completing the roster. We feel great about where we are as a starting point for the fall here in 22 and building to the 23 season. I think a couple things that stand out is we definitely were able to upgrade and address some areas that we needed to improve and feel great about that part of it. We like the talent across the board. That being said, the talent does not make us a team, and it doesn't make us, skilled to win games today, which the good part of that is we have some time to develop the team, which we take every day very serious in terms of that and how we build. And to give you some framework of the fall, starting today, going through October 6th, will be all skill instruction, strength and conditioning, where we can have the players 8 hours a week, and then we'll start our 45-day fall segment October 7, and we'll run that through Sunday, November 20th. A couple of the key dates in there. Sunday, November 6th, we will play McNeese at home in one of our fall games, and then Sunday, November 13th, we'll play at Louisiana Lafayette, and then the last weekend, November 18 to 20, we'll have our Purple and Gold World Series. So very excited to get into that process with our team and do what we need to do to develop to be prepared when we turn the corner to 2023. Very excited about the blend of new players with the returners. There was one point last season in my head, I had a thought of how I wanted this to look, and it was simply the best players and best people from last year's roster that had the opportunity to return, and the guys that we're bringing back, we certainly feel good about. Something that I'm excited about is in my coaching time, the biggest improvements I've ever seen of any players between years 1 and 2 and working with them, whether a freshman and becoming a sophomore or if it's our first year or second year with the program. So I'm very excited about that. I think there'll be some familiarity with the team and the group that our players will benefit from, the returning players. And then we felt excited about where we were headed in the recruiting class, as we talked about last fall in November. Certainly added some really talented players at some key positions that will be important names in our program for the next few years, which we're excited about. And then when you kind of put those two parts together, the returners, the incoming players, assessing the draft, what that was potentially going to look like and how that was going to affect us, then now we have an avenue with the transfer portal, and we're able to add 5 players there, which was all very, very intentional in how we came up with that. So very excited about the group and excited to answer any questions that you guys have.
Coach, with the 5 transfer portal players, it looks like most of those guys have multiple years, left of eligibility here. Just how important was that in terms of recruiting guys that would not only be around for this year, but could be staples of the program, for the next couple seasons?
Yeah, really good question. And I think as we're evolving, in this new time, I'm learning something every day. And, we actually had a few more, and the guys that were draft eligible, all of them that were draft eligible, that had committed to us, we actually lost in the draft. And so moving forward, I think that's something that we'll pay attention to. But relative to the 5 that we got, very excited about them. Obviously, the upgrade in pitching talent, ability to strike people out, ability to dominate with strikes, the ability to throw your fastball where you want it to change speeds. We feel great about the ones that we added with Paul Skaines, Thatcher Hurd, and Christian Little. I think all of them have the potential to be major league pitchers someday. I think they'll complement the returners that we have. And the story of this is not just going to be about the guys that we brought in, but the improvement of the guys on the roster from last year. When you look at a Grant Taylor, Ty Floyd, Riley Cooper, guys that had significant or made significant contributions. But in that regard, the idea is we'll probably only have Paul and Christian for this year, and then very excited to have Thatcher for the next 2 years. And so when you looked at, what pitcher was out there that could be a massive contributor for the next 2 years, he was the guy that jumped right to the top of the page, and we made a huge priority to get him. Relative to the two position players, they both have 2 years of eligibility left with Tommy Wyatt and Ben Napolt. And with Tommy, one of the best hitters in the country. I think he was a National Freshman of the Year. The power and the numbers and all that really jump out at you. But I think what you guys will come to appreciate is how quality of hitter he actually is. And, there's room for growth and improvement there too. So I'm certainly excited about that. But, looking at it, I think we're in an era now where you're kind of looking at building your team 1 year at a time, and then it becomes almost a bonus when you can add guys that you're going to have for multiple years.
If you would, you talked about the returning players. Could you comment on their summers? Any significant, improvements or, challenges that they faced?
Billy, can you hear that?
Sheep, can you get that?
Louder back there.
Sorry, Coach. I'm working on it. I'm working on my projection. Is it on?
Yeah, I think the question was commenting on the returning players and the summers and productivity and those types of things. Looking at the two obvious that jump out is a great honor for Dylan Cruz and Trey Morgan to make and play for Team USA. Paul Skaines, incoming transfer, was also on that team. It's a great honor, to be selected to that when it's 25 guys across the country to put USA across their chest, and 3 of those players came from LSU. It's a good thing for our program. I think last year, at least the last 2 years, they've both, Dylan and Trey, have established themselves as 2 of the better players in the country, and continue to build in their development over the summer with Team USA. Josh Pearson, went and played in the Cape Cod League. Jordan Thompson went and played in the Cape Cod League. A lot of the pitchers we're very careful with. We're obviously going to put their health first. So there wasn't a lot of them that actually needed to go throw innings with how we used the pitching staff last year. Equal distribution pretty much across the board. But Grant Taylor, as I mentioned before, stood out and had some good outings in the Cape Cod League as well.
Hey, Coach. I was sort of curious about the situation with Paul Skaines. What's sort of planned for him as a hitter, and is he going to see the field at all while he's also pitching?
Yeah, he's going to be a hitter and a pitcher here, no question about that. He has tremendous power, tremendous bat speed. I think if he was just a position player alone, we probably still would have recruited him all the same. I think on the mound, you're talking about a pitcher that has an opportunity to be one of the best pitchers in the country, potential high draft pick. We'll probably lean to the side, and you always have to do this in a two-way player situation where you have to take care of their body and their arm first. And so that's what we'll do with Paul. But we think he can really positively impact our offense. And other Coach Wes Johnson, and myself have already spent a lot of time mapping out his days. Like, for instance, today, he's with Wes at 10:30 and be able to go through his pitching development, go through his weight room development, and then recovery, and then he would join the hitters on a day like today in the afternoon and be, completely clear. So we'll pay attention to that. As far as the defensive thing, we'll see. We do not plan on him catching at this point in time. I think when you look at a pitcher that has an opportunity that Paul does to advance his career in that way, we have to be smart about protecting him.
Coach, one position group I know that you were feeling questionable about last year was left-handed pitchers. Do you feel more confident in the number of left-handers you have on your staff now? I noticed there's a new name on here, DJ. So I was wondering if you could speak to that.
Yeah, I think, Augie Garrido, great coach. I spent a little bit of time with him when I was a really young coach, and we were just talking baseball, and he just said left-handed pitching and left-handed hitting. If you want to build a national championship caliber team, was something that was important to him. I won't go into the thought process of why. It's something if you followed or you have any background on our teams at Arizona or Nevada, that was a big component in how we built them, and it's something we want to do here. It was very difficult last year, really only having two guys that you could go to from the left side, but adding a few more, in the high school class, Nick Bronzini, Griffin Herring. I think we're at 5 for the fall, and feel really, really good about that.
Hey, Coach, not sure if we had a chance to ask you about this, but just what drew you to Coach Johnson and Coach Jordan and wanting to bring those two guys, aboard the program?
Yeah, easy decisions, honestly. And give you a little background on it. I tried to hire Coach Wes last year when I got the job. The timing just didn't work, and it's very understandable and that. But kind of going back before that, having a background of and understanding his background, coaching at Dallas Baptist, Coach Hefner there is always on the forefront of development of players. And then when Wes went to Mississippi State, we played each other in the 2016, Super Regional. So firsthand, got a chance to see, how he developed a pitching staff, and still to this day, we won that Super Regional, but that was the most complete pitching staff, or one of two that I can remember in my entire coaching career, in terms of talent, ability to execute, the whole package that I've ever seen. They won the SEC that year. And then the next 2 years, just, by coincidence, at Arizona, we played Arkansas when he was at Arkansas the 2 years prior to that. And I think we won one of the games 3-0, and they beat us 1-0. And so, coaching against him from an offensive standpoint with his pitchers felt like a dentist appointment. And then it goes much, much deeper than that. If you just follow baseball, great pitching coaches are really hard to find, and they can change or impact everything. And so when you look at the development model, the ability to communicate, the ability to put players in positions to be successful by assessing what they need, to see it, and then be able to attach what you need to do, both physically from an arm standpoint, and then get them programmed out to actually be able to turn that into improvement. There's not 10 people in baseball that I think can do that, and he's the best at that. So that was pretty easy. And then relative to Josh, again, another easy decision. One of the benefits of recruiting a lot is you get to see who actually does a great job. And that starts with work ethic. That starts with the ability to build relationships, both with players and people that are influential in players' decisions, and his attention to detail, work ethic, ability to communicate. All those things really, really stood out. And, Coach Pollard and Josh did an unbelievable job at Duke. You think Duke, you think Coach K, basketball, all that type of stuff, but you're talking about a baseball program that's had 3 top 10 recruiting classes in a row and been in 2 super regionals, in the past 4 or 5 years. And they started basically from scratch. And that has a lot to do with his ability to bring talented players to a place that wasn't highly thought of relative to baseball. That's completely changed now, and I have no doubt, he'll be successful in helping us do that.
Coach, could you assess your candidates on the middle infield, and also give us an update on the recovery of Javen Coleman?
Yeah, relative to the middle infield, Jordan Thompson obviously is back. I thought he had a very good season for us last year as an offensive player. I think if you look at the most important games that we won, Jordan probably had a clutch hit in that, including both games that we won in the NCAA tournament. I thought from probably, let's call it the midpoint, I thought he did a much better job defensively at shortstop, and I have a lot of confidence in Jordan. I think we brought in the best player in the state of Louisiana in Gavin Guidry. was a two-way player at Barb. I think he was the state player of the year, if I'm not mistaken. He will exclusively, at least for the time being, play infield here because that's where the greater need is. I think very thankful to him. Had a lot of pro interest, turned down significant potential bonus money in the draft, and I always think that's significant because I think it shows, confidence in your ability. And if you're going to succeed as a freshman at this place, you have to have tremendous confidence. He's a great athlete, really good runner, which we need more of, in the program, relative to athleticism. Very hard-nosed player, obviously comes from a great program at Barb. And I'm really, really anxious, to get out there and get working with him. Ben Napolt was an infielder that we picked up from Virginia Commonwealth. The thing that jumps right off the page, he's an all-conference player, but I think he almost had twice as many walks as strikeouts and ability to handle the bat. When you think about potentially the other position players that could make a positive impact on the team, just having a guy that gives you quality at bats and whatever you need when they're at the plate fits very well. And those types of players have always usually been pretty successful relative to playing for our team. So excited about those guys. Gavin Dugas, we will spend some time in the infield as well in the fall. If you saw him right now, probably wouldn't recognize him. He looks like he's in tremendous shape. Ability to move obviously is going to be important. He has a good throwing arm, so there's no concerns about turning a double play. We were in a bad injury spot last year at Alabama. We actually had him play third base, and he did that fine. So I'm anxious to see how that takes. Jack Merrifield went out and played this summer, made a good contribution for us early in the season last year. So that's kind of the guys that immediately come to mind as far as doing that. As far as Javen Coleman, he is back. Had a full Tommy John reconstruction after I think his third appearance, last year. So that was in March. So at March it'll be 12 months. Sometimes those guys take differently, to the surgeries, the different procedures they have. What I can tell you is we will be very smart about when his return will be, and I can't really comment on that, 3 or 4 months out. I think that, or 4 or 5 months out. Throwing program will begin at some point later this fall, and then we're just going to kind of have to see how it goes, but we won't be rushing him into action before he's ready.
Coach, just your catcher position, could you update us on that progress and who's healthy and ready to go?
Yeah, happy to. There was a lot of moving parts throughout the summer. Alex Malazzo, relative to the two returners first, was hurt in like the 9th game last year, which we finally got to the bottom of what the injury actually was, and we're able to get, it's called plica, something like that, a growth in his knee. So we was able to get that out and clean that out. And that's alleviated all the pain from my understanding, and he looks really good physically. So I don't see any reason that he can't get back and work in the fall. Hayden Travinsky went up to the Cape Cod League for about a month, I believe, and had some at-bats this summer. I went up there to see him play. Working really hard right now on his swing, making some changes to try to develop more consistency. Strength is certainly not a problem for him. So I think he's on to a good track. But really where we, I think hit the jackpot was all 3 of our incoming guys that can catch easily could have been drafted and signed. And all of them ended up here, which is great for us. Brady Neal from IMG Academy, left-handed hitter, one of the best hitters, that's going to go to college, in my opinion, just in terms of his ability to make contact and hit the ball on a line and handle good pitching. Also really good receiver, really good catcher. Jared Jones, keep him away from, actually the next 2 guys, Jared Jones and Ethan Freya, keep those guys away from Coach Kelly because they look like football players. Jared has tremendous power, had a outstanding high school season, the MLB Combine at Petco Park in, I believe it was June. He took the most impressive batting practice of any high school or college hitter there. So, I mean, that's top 300 players in the country. So that gives you a little insight on his potential. Can also play first base and moves pretty well for his size, so may be able to do some other things. And the same thing with Ethan. So, you know, we were at Josh as soon as he got here. It was like, hey, let's do a rundown of the catchers in the portal because we're not sure how this thing's going to go. And obviously, those guys had a really hard time staying healthy last year, and so it was nice to be able to pull back and not have that side project, you know, pull up.
Hey, Coach, this will feel like really old news, but I'm just curious your thoughts on the recruits, the number of recruits that signed, the transfers that ended up signing because they were all eligible. Is that more a factor of professional baseball? Are they all unrelated individual cases? And are there a couple of situations where you were literally really surprised what happened?
You know, a couple thoughts on that is Major League Baseball has a system where they have a lot of money at their disposal. You know, they probably sell $2 million in hot dogs at a 9-inning game. You know, so they have all this money that can be passed out. So that is what it is. Wasn't really blindsided by anything that happened. You know, maybe one surprise there at the end, but you know, those guys made their decision to go do that, and I couldn't be happier about the guys that we got here. You know, one of the bonuses of coming to a place like LSU is not only do they get to develop, not only are they going to be more prepared when they're a professional player, but, you know, bright spotlight, you know, and the guys that decided to come to college and turn down signing bonuses, you know, it's their time to have their name heard, and that's kind of where we'll keep the focus on them.
Just curious, you were talking about Josh and being relentless on the road. Was part of that hire to let you focus a little bit more on the baseball and less on the road?
I'm going to do whatever I need to do to help us win and win at the highest possible level. And both these guys know that they have my full support. If I need to do something, I can't tell a pitcher what Wes can as far as developing them, you know, physically and, you know, when to get the ball out of their glove and create deception and finger pressure and all that type of stuff. But from a mindset standpoint, I probably can't help him or reinforce something that he wants. And from my chair, you can kind of do that. And I will always do that when asked upon. And from Josh's standpoint, you know, he works incredibly hard. I know the evaluations, you know, of an Omaha caliber player. That's what we're going to get out of him. But there's a lot of effort in recruiting now in terms of what it takes to get those players to choose you, to stay with you, to bypass professional baseball for you. So the answer is probably no. Okay. All right, Wes Johnson.